The Burning Crusade's pre-patch for Anniversary realms will be starting on January 13th, 2026, and though as of doing this video we don't know the official launch date yet, it's assumed to be some 3 to 4 weeks later. And whether you're jumping into Outland for the first time on Anniversary realms or you're revisiting it for the second or third time, there are a bunch of small quality of life tricks to make your experience smoother. These things aren't exactly secrets, but they're not things which you're gonna come across naturally or you're a bit less likely to know about them. I've played TBC a few times over now, and today I wanted to share a few things which I've learned about this version of the game over time, which may help you out. Whether these are just going over how new systems will work where it's a bit unclear, saving you time, efficiency, or gold, there are a bunch of different things to know, so let's make a start. These are 10 of the things I would have wished I knew about TBC when I was playing it during Classic. First up, let's talk about how the mount system changed heading into TBC, because there are some important differences from vanilla which catch people off guard. The biggest one when you're leveling your new Blood Elves or Draenei will be that you can now purchase your first mount at level 30 down from level 40. This was a change made super late into TBC, but we're playing on the final patch, so this will be available during Anniversary realms. Riding training also changed. In vanilla you had to learn specific faction riding skills, so if you're a Tauren you'd learn Kodo riding, if you're a human you'd learn horse riding, and so on. In TBC, this is now gone, and riding is now treated much like any other profession, where you just learn new tiers of it. The cost structure has flipped too. In vanilla, the mount was expensive and the training was cheap. In TBC, it's the other way around. Also, you should know faction reputation discounts change in TBC. The bonus from having rank 3 and honoured with a faction don't give discounts anymore. Instead, you'll now get a 5% discount with any faction starting at friendly, and this scales up to 20% at Exalted. So depending on what you're buying, things may be a bit cheaper in the pre-patch. However, and this was the big confusion the first time around in TBC, faction discounts for flying training and flying mounts weren't actually added into the game until patch 3.2 during Wrath of the Lich King. In TBC, you should expect to pay full price for your riding training. And if Blizzard have changed this for whatever reason, then they backported an update from Wrath of the Lich King, which would be beneficial to us all, but if things were how they were in TBC, you shouldn't expect this. Before we go on, a quick word from today's sponsor, Boot.dev. Boot.dev is a platform that aims to equip you with the skills to get on board with a career in back-end development through interactive lessons and learning. Instead of boring video lectures, they throw you into hands-on learning from day one, and you'll learn back-end web development from start to finish in Python, SQL, and Go. Crucially, you'll be writing tons of your own code throughout your entire journey and building real projects that mirror job responsibilities. There is plenty of help available on this journey too, such as Boots the AI Bear. He's been trained on every single lesson and knows exactly what you're learning, and when you get stuck he won't just outright give you the answers, but instead ask you follow-up questions so you can understand what you've done wrong and get back on track. And even if you're just curious and want to see what it's all about, all the content is free to read and watch, and there is even a 30 days no questions asked refund policy. So really it is risk-free, and if you may be interested, then why not give it a go? You can also head down to the link in the description and use my code Willie for 25% off your entire first year for Boot.dev. Thank you as always to Boot.dev for supporting the channel. Let's get on back to WoW. Next up, let's talk a bit about the Dark Moon Fair. It still shows up once a month, rotating between Elwyn Forest, Morgor, and now a new location just south of Shatrath in Terokkar Forest. It's still active only for 1 week at a time, but if you can catch it whilst it's there, there's a vendor there that sells a lot of very good stuff called Professor Thaddeus Paleo. He sells a limited stock supply of items including rare gems, different moats, scrolls, and more. The catch is the competition here is going to be incredibly high, and I'm about 99% sure on TBC Classic that people were either just AFKing this while working from home or actually straight up just botting it. Nevertheless, if the Dark Moon Fair is active and you're heading over there for whatever reason that may be, it is worth checking in with this guy to see if he has anything good on sale. Next up, this is one for people going Oldor for their Shatrath reputation, because Scryers don't have access to this. But you should know there is a path from Oldor Rise in Shatrath that leads directly directly into Nagrand. The entrance is on the northern part of the Aldor Rise, and it just saves you some time instead of having to fly back into Nagrand, or that first journey into the zone where you start right in the south of it. The City of Light quest in Shatrath is infamous for a very good reason. It has you follow around Khadgar's servant on a tour around the entire city explaining the lore of Shatrath, the Aldor, the Scryers and so on, and it's a mandatory point that everyone's going to have to do before you can choose your faction. But here's something most people don't realize: you don't actually have to follow the servant around the entire tour. So the servant will go for a whole set path throughout the city, but you can just go and stand where the quest ends near the badge vendors and wait at that particular location. And when the servant finally gets back around there some 8 or 9 minutes later, the quest will just auto complete. So this gives you a good chance to get up and get a few things done whilst this quest is ongoing. On top of that, well, on Anniversary Realms we have Mega Realms now, and if anyone else's elemental gets to that end spot for the quest, it will also complete as well. So it will almost certainly always complete before that 8-minute mark has elapsed. Nevertheless, this is a nice time saver and a chance to go AFK for a bit, so I thought I'd let you know about it. This same exact technique works for the introductory quest in the Caverns of Time too, when the steward walks you around the entire zone showing you all the various different dungeons and raids. You can just wait over there where the quest ends and get some other stuff done. Next up, whilst you're leveling through Outland, you'll get quest rewards and dungeon drops with gem sockets. Without gems, socketed items can actually be weaker than non-socketed alternatives of a similar item level, but buying gems off the auction house may be a little bit expensive, or maybe you just forget to do it. But as an alternative, if you forget to buy any or you just want to pick some up while you're leveling in case you get an item with gem sockets, there are vendors in Hellfire Peninsula. These are from Marcus Silent in Honorhold for the Alliance and from Regan Monusco in Thrallmar for the Horde. Both of them sell common quality gems. This is super useful for alts as well because you can always just carry around a few gems. Once Phase 2 launches and Tempest Keep and Serpent Shrine Cavern become available, there is an alternative way to get raid flasks which is easier and cheaper than buying them from alchemists. You do need to meet 3 reputation requirements though to benefit from this: Exalted with the Shatar, Exalted with the Cenarian Expedition, and Exalted with either the Aldor or the Scryers. Now you may have this on your main if you've been grinding, but of course with how Blizzard are handling achievements in TBC on Anniversary, none of your other characters are really gonna have this. But you should know about them anyway. The thing to know about here is that marks of the Illidari will begin dropping from trash and bosses in tier 5s and 6. And if you have these reputations, you can turn them in at vendors just where the banks are in Shatrath City, and turn them in for a 1-to-1 ratio for any flask you want. The advantage here is pretty straightforward. Traditional flasks will tend to be more expensive, and marks of the Illidari are overall cheaper. Just note these flasks can only be used in tier 5, so Serpent Shrine Cavern and Tempest Keep, tier 6, Mount Hyjal and Black Temple, and the Sunwell. If you're going back to any raiding content before that or heroic dungeons, you'll still need regular flasks. Nevertheless, you don't need to stock up on an infinite number of flasks at the start of TBC. If you're planning to hit Exalted, wait for marks of the Illidari to drop and then go turn those in instead. Speaking of alchemy in TBC, there's a pretty big tip here which can save you a bunch of time and a lot of gold. Alchemy gains mastery in TBC. You have Transmutation Master, Elixir Master, and Potion Master. Each has a chance to proc additional items on craft. Now the biggest one here in TBC has always been for Primal Mites from Transmutation Master. However, to pick up Transmutation Master in the first place, it costs 4 Primal Mites. However, it doesn't have to. If you go to pick up the Potion Mastery quest, which requires a run of the Botanica and some super potions which are super cheap, you can then unlearn it for 150g and then go over to the Transmutation Master and pick that up without having to do their own quest. It's essentially a workaround that saves you the 4 days of having to transmute Primal Mites and potential gold loss of doing that. So if you are planning to have some alchemists specifically for Primal Mites, you should absolutely use this workaround to save a lot of time and gold. The Consortium is a new faction in TBC, and you'll naturally gain reputation with them throughout questing in mainly Neverstorm and Nagrand. One of the benefits of this reputation is that they give you a weekly bag full of gems depending on your reputation with them. This is a quest available at friendly reputation and above, where you'll get a free gem bag from Gezi and Eris Landing in Nagrand. That's the bit over to the southwest. Both the quality and quantity of the gems in the bag improve improves based on your reputation. At friendly, you're probably going to get a bunch of green gems, which aren't really that good, but it's something, and at exalted, you have a pretty good chance of getting rare quality gems. In any event, you could pull a red gem early on, and it's going to save you a few hundred gold, and you just go do this quest once per week. Assuming you have some reputation with the consortium, it's free to go and do, so you might as well. Scrolls become way more important in TBC than they were in vanilla as raiding consumables, and a lot of people overlook how good they are. You see, in vanilla, scrolls didn't stack with elixirs that gave the same type of stats. For example, Scroll of Agility would not stack with Elixir of the Mongoose. This made scrolls pretty much worthless in vanilla. In TBC though, as you'll probably know, Blizzard reworked the consumable system into Battle Elixirs and Guardian Elixirs, and flasks count for both at the same time. However, scrolls aren't categorized as either of these, so they stack with them. There are new rank 5 scrolls in TBC that give plus 20 to a primary stat, with the most important ones by far being Strength and Agility. The other ones are nice, but they're not as big of a deal. For people min-maxing, this is absolutely a meaningful boost that they will want to buy. Rank 4 scrolls, which are from vanilla, give plus 17 to a main stat too, and these will have already gone up in price. There are several ways to get scrolls. You'll just find them when you're out in the open world doing questing, maybe in dungeons, so just make sure you're not vendoring them or using them pretty much. As mentioned earlier, we do have the Darkmoon Fur, but again, that's going to be super contested. There is a quest in Zangarmarsh, a job unfinished for the Horde and unfinished business for the Alliance. This has you kill an NPC called Sporewing. It's super easy, though it might be busy early on, and this gives you 5 scrolls of your choice. Just make sure you're picking Strength or Agility. Engineers can craft a new tier of field repair bot in TBC. Whenever this spawns, it has some scrolls in it, but this will be when your raid needs to repair, and somebody is going to try and yoink them instantly, so maybe you can be that guy. There's also a lesser known NPC named Sahak in the Sketis area of Terakar Forest who sells a limited supply of scrolls. To access him, you need to progress through the Sketis quest line, starting with a world in shadows and continuing through to a shabby disguise. You need this Arakoa disguise in order to talk to him, and when you are able to talk to him, he will sell some scrolls. Finally, in TBC, professions are quite a big deal. However, unlike vanilla, a lot of the most important profession recipes or patterns are bind on pickup, meaning you need to buy them from the vendor yourself instead of just getting them from the auction house. Critical recipes like smoke flares for engineers, superior mana potions for alchemists, key enchanting formulas and so on are all bind on pickup. And if you're using an add-on such as Questy, which you almost certainly are, you can toggle on an option to show vendor locations on your map. This makes it way easier to find profession vendors out in the world that you may have otherwise completely missed. There are vendors scattered throughout every zone in Outland in the most unlikely places, and you've probably walked past them all a dozen times before. Beyond major patterns, many vendors also have limited stock supply of useful items which you'll be able to resell for gold, and it's always fun to find a vendor and just see what they're selling in general. I think you never know what exactly you're going to find. It's the system that rewards exploration and being thorough whilst you're on your questing journey, so do check in with various vendors, and especially profession vendors if you're planning to level a certain profession which is going to need something from them. And there you have it, 10 things which would have definitely helped me on my first run back through TBC. It is an expansion full of these little optimizations if you know where to look, and if you didn't know any of these things, it's not realistically going to make a huge difference, but I think this kind of information is nice to have at the back of your mind so you can benefit from it here and there. If you've got anything else you think would have been worth adding, definitely drop it down in the comments down below. Shout out to boot.dev for sponsoring this video. You can check them out for free via the links below and get a start on back-end web development today. But with all that said, as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all in the next one very soon.